Hello friends, and welcome to Echoes of the Shore. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so very much. Echoes of the Shore is my lovely little survival series here, where my entire goal is to fully restore this island's song back to the way it was in the ancient times. And to do that, I need to go and collect 4 different shards of this island's song called Echoes. And to get one of those, I need to go and do a whole bunch of diorama-based chores. For example, we can get an echo for making a lake, we can get an echo for building a bunch of trees, doing a bunch of landscaping, or building big old rocks. It's all very lore stuff, so I am sorry if it's weird, but that is our objective for today's video. We are going to be setting out on a big old adventure to try and get ourselves one of the 4 echoes that we need to fully restore this lovely little island. However, we have a bunch of other stuff that we also need to do in this video, including a whole bunch of fishing. Of course, it's not a Puddleshine video if it doesn't have a bunch of fishing in the beginning. Although that's not how it used to be actually. Back in my old fishcraft days, all the fishing used to be at the end. Anyway, this is going to be one mega episode, I will say that for sure. So unfortunately, I think it is going to have to be delayed significantly because of the amount of resources that I'm going to need to try and get this video done. Because in today's video, we are on top of all of our fishing going to be doing a ginormous cavern inside of our mountain here that is going to be the house for all of the different echoes that we can collect. Kind of like I just wanted some sort of physical object in the world to be able to put my echoes and stuff. So it's going to be like a podium of the sorts, but just think very natural and like overgrown, kind of like the toxic jungle from Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind, one of my favorite movies ever. So just think toxic jungle, but inside of a giant cave. So that is what we are going to be doing in today's video. We are going to be making some sort of a jungle or something along those lines inside of this mountain here. So we're gonna have a tiny entrance about here, and then the main entrance is going to be all the way over here next to this abandoned mine shaft. And because it is raining, I think there's no better time to get started on our fishing. So without further ado, let us just jump straight into fishing. And 2 seconds. And welcome back from the big old fishing time lapse. I had a very good time so far doing the fishing and everything. However, it is significantly less than I had originally hoped for in terms of fishing for this week, especially since this video is going to be 2 weeks worth of content. I don't know how much fishing I could do, but it certainly is not very much, because at the end of our very last episode, we were at a total of 48,000 fish caught, and after just a couple of days of extra fishing, we have finally passed our goal of 50,000 because we are now at 52,623. That's pretty good for just 1 week, or I guess that was about 3 days worth of fishing, I suppose, not an entire week, but close enough. That being said, we have a lot of things that we need to do in this video, and I have no idea how I'm going to get the time for this, but I will certainly be trying my best here. So at the very top of my to-do list for this video is I need to start planning out the layout for this ginormous cavern that I have in mind. And there's one spot in particular that I'm wanting to focus on, and it is this lovely little mine shaft that I pointed out earlier, and it is going to be what I would consider the main entrance for it, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily the biggest. I mean, it's quite small. Maybe I could make it a little bigger over here, and I certainly need to knock out these pieces of wood and stuff here, because my whole theme pretty much for this island was to have it uninhabited, other than maybe the native creatures and myself. And I certainly didn't make this. I mean, I did, but you know, lore. So all of this wood needs to go, and I'll probably replace it with like a wall mushroom, like one of those shelf mushrooms. That's what they're called. the little flat ones. Maybe we'll put one here to make it look like a roof while also keeping it natural, because we need to stick to our storytelling so that things are a bit more coherent or consistent. Something like that. Anyway, we are going to be working on winding our lovely little path up into the existing cavern that we have already inside of this mountain, because this whole thing is just a massive empty chasm, and there is a lot of room for like caves and everything. So we're hopefully gonna change that. So let's just very quickly put down some of the blocks that we're going to be doing for the little mine shaft entrance. And 2 seconds. And significantly more than 2 seconds later, we now have a lovely little path that we can walk through for the little cavern and everything. I just want to set the theme here. So the idea that I was going for this specific cavern and the whole theme is probably going to be overgrown and like fungus and like mushroom and kind of a relaxing vibe. Like we got the poisonous aspect of like mushroom. Speaking of, look at this little mushroom I made. Doesn't this look good? This is a good little brown mushroom. The jungle on the granite looks really, really good to me. Comboed of course with the warped stuff on top of the mycelium. So many good colors here. I love it so much. You can't hardly see because it's nighttime. 2 seconds, let me fix that. So straight away you will see that we have the tiny little cherry grove trees over here on the sides, and I originally did not like the size of this cavern. It felt too open and it didn't give off kind of the overgrown, cozy, kind of like relaxing vibe that I was going for. So I added these cherry trees last minute to try and cramp in the area up a bit more, because originally it was just a bunch of mushrooms and a bunch of moss and stuff, all of these kinds of things. So it was missing the trees, right? So I did add the trees last, and I think it made such a crazy difference. Although it was really hard trying to fit full-scale trees into here. I definitely don't think it worked properly, and these really don't look as good as they could do. But I did my best with the time constraints that I had for this, especially considering I've got to build 4 more of them on probably a scale of like 5 or 6 times bigger. So this is gonna be wild. However, this is what we got right now. We got these cool little trees, except this is just the entrance. All right, so this is the entrance. We go through, we got one tree here. We got all kinds of mushrooms. We got another tree directly on our left here, surrounded again by a whole bunch of mushrooms. And then as we work our way up, we have more and more mushrooms as we go in. And then we have the 2 big old cherry trees, which are still very small compared to what I want to do, that mark the actual entrance to the cavern. And I really liked the idea of having a very long and like twisty road that felt it's very narrow. It feels very narrow as you go through, and then it just kind of explodes into this ginormous like cavern that has a lot of like space and is filled with stuff. So that's the goal for this video, is to do that. This is the smaller main passage that leads up to the actual entrance to the cavern. We've got all kinds of the brown mushrooms all over the place, all kinds of different sizes and variations of them all. And then right here is where we're going to have our big old cavern and everything. And don't mind this. We'll get to these later. And with that, I think that's about all I've got done so far. So I think maybe I'm gonna try to get started on the resource collecting part for the lovely little cavern. Oh, wait a second. I had an idea. I'm so sorry. I keep on going back and forth, but I had a really cool idea. So you know how we're doing like a Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind situation with like the toxic jungle and the cave and everything? I thought, what if I did the little horse claws from the actual movie itself? So there in the movie, there are these cute little like birdie creatures. They're like these little flightless birds. They use them as horses, and they're called horse claws, though they don't look anything like horses. They're more like big chickens. And I think they are so adorable. And I thought maybe, just maybe, we could make the horse claws the actual inhabitants of the island. So like this whole area, this is all them. This is their entire home. So maybe we can make like little nests and stuff around, and little tiny families of like these little ostrich shaped giant chicken babies. I thought that was a really cute idea. So maybe we could free flow a couple of those, maybe. See how that goes. Oh, and we can make a bunch of babies as well. Oh, this is gonna be great. All right, let me go grab my shulker box very quickly, and we will get started. All right, here we go. So, very first thing that I need to do is get a couple of legs down. And I think a good design for some legs are two sandstone walls on top of some bamboo stairs, but I need to figure out what direction I want this little chicken ostrich to be facing. And I feel like maybe towards the ocean is probably better, just since I usually do my fishing over in this location. If I look over, I'll be able to see their little head popping over. Oh, wait a second. Actually, I'm gonna put them right next to me where I do my regular fishing, just so I can see them all the time. So, what, probably over here is good, yeah? Yeah, this is a good spot. Okay, so we're going to very quickly, the first thing we do is we pop down where we want the feet to be, which I think are about right here. And I learned that if you put little bamboo fences on the front, you can make them look kind of like toes. That's pretty cool. Or like little claws, especially for like chickens or like dragons and stuff like that. And then we use our little sandstone walls here for the legs. Now the rest of this is all mostly going to be black stone, I'm pretty sure, because the birds in the movies are all black feathery and stuff. We're not gonna be needing too many more blocks other than these. And if we do need other ones, for example, these ones, it would just be for some lighter colors or just for some different texture, I'll be honest. But what we're gonna do right now is try and sort out how tall we want this actual birdie to be. I know that the legs should be about one block like this. So I'm going to start working up to where the neck is from the bottom of the legs. So we're gonna go up, maybe we'll say, what, 1 or 2 blocks? And we'll grab some of these stairs here, and we're just going to put one stair facing upwards, and then we're going to take this same exact stair and then flip it upside down. There we go. I miss my scaffolding so much. Ow. It's a bit on the flat side right now. But that is because I haven't put in really anything else except for just where I want the neck to be. And the best way to make this thing get into shape as quickly as possible is to start putting in the actual face. Now for the face, I've decided on a mixture of perhaps black stone buttons and warped buttons for the eyes. Maybe for the warped buttons, we'll use that for the females, right? Because usually these birds and stuff like that, they usually have some form of distinction between the two. So we'll try to use lighter colors for the females and then the darker eyes for the males. I don't know if that's accurate, that just is what I'm making up as I go here. And for the eyes, you just grab one little stripped log. I don't know really what color is the best for the eyes. I maybe a pale oak would work better, but I think this is fine how it is. So we're going to grab, we'll try, yeah, okay, we'll try the blackstone buttons for now as the pupil, and then we go over to the front once again and we put a little stair. Yeah, there it is. There's our little beak right there. So we use the upside down bamboo stair as the beak, and if we want the beak to look a little bigger, we can also put a bamboo trap door on top as well, just to make it stick out that little bit extra. And then we can put a bamboo pressure plate as kind of like a bit more of a smooth transition to the top of their head, which also is missing a little slab, because I don't want their head to be completely flat. I think this is pretty cute so far. This is our little test dummy for what we could use as the base for all of our birds. Oh my gosh, this looks awful. Here, let's put a shelf on the bottom of the neck, just to help smoothen the transition between the head and the neck. And then I think we're actually going to remove this and then change it to a stair so that it doesn't look as flat, maybe? Or, there we go, actually. That seemed to work in a different way. Here, we just do this. We just move this one back one. Ooh, and then what if we change this one to a stair? Oh my gosh. We're learning. Oops, I messed it up. There we go. No, that's awful. Okay, but I take it back. We don't need the other stair. Yeah, this is good. All right, and then from here, at the very base of the neck, we start wrapping where we want the actual body to be. So we're gonna take some of our blackstone slabs and we'll kind of just run it along around about where we want the curve of the back to be and where the feathers start to spike up. Now, I do know that the birds in this show have a or this movie rather, they have wings, right? But they don't work very good, and they're not like fully evolved quite yet. So they aren't very developed. So they are very squaggly little wings. So we don't have to make them big and fluffy. They're almost completely invisible. So we're going to try and work around the wings here. We'll say one or two blocks out like this. And then we'll start using the stairs to go upwards, because we really need these tail wings to start spiking, because that's one of their big defining features, is that eventually the back ends of their feathers are all quite spiky. This might be too long actually. And we'll stick to this for now. And now we start rounding out our little body. Well, oh, I guess we could put one of those there as well, right? No, we need the long neck. We need big tall neck. That does not work at all. We'll come back to this one. I think maybe I'll keep it as a slab for right now, and we'll see how it feels in a little while. However, we need to do a bit more wing placing over here. So we're going to do a design that I used to use for tires, which is the Blackstone stairs with one of them upwards and then just flipped upside down like this. So we're gonna do two of those, or maybe just one of them, and then and then maybe we can use some of these other slabs finally as like the lighter bits for the ends of the wing, right? Yeah, we do something like, oopsie, not that. And then we do something like this. I do this a lot in my terraforming as well, where I'll do diagonals, and then I'll also make it go upwards a block, just for a little bit more visual, a bit more of a visual interest, I guess, or whatever you'd want to call that. It also does add a little bit of a spike to it as well, I think, for that spikiness that we were looking for. So this is just the wing right here, just a tiny little thing. And then since these are the legs, we're gonna also want these to go out as well. So maybe we'll add a couple of oh no, I can't do that. I can't do that. These wings need to be out one more block. We'll try that. Maybe we can make the bottom of it a bit more spiky. What are these blocks? Why is this all messed up? Do I have any walls? I do have walls. Nice. Here, we'll put one wall on the end just to make it seem like it's a bit more like spiky or fluffy. Maybe, I think that works. Oh, maybe we can put one of them over here as well. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. Now they're coming along. What else could we do here? I do still need to give them a bit more of a roundness to their body. So we're going to break these and then fill them in with blackstone, like so. You know, maybe it would benefit to have the legs actually pushed in a block. So let me try moving these inwards one and see if that looks any better, because this is not working out for me right now. It feels really weird, and I don't know why. And now, how do we feel? No, there we go. That's what was wrong. It was totally the legs. They were totally in the wrong spot. That looks way better. Yeah, there we go. Now we just need to... Uh-oh. Oh, no. I messed it up. There we go. That's much better. I had the sideways legs. Let's take a nap. Okay, is there anything else I can add to this? I definitely feel like I could benefit from a few more walls and like spiky pieces of like blackstone on the middle section here. Not that it would like make much sense, but I do feel like it would really contribute to the spikiness of the back. Just because I'm looking at these reference images, and boy are they are very spiky. So maybe we'll just add a couple of little excrusions or whatever, just some little spiky poke ups. Just for no reason other than to make them look more spiky, right? So we'll try that. Yeah, there we go. This could work.Maybe this wing actually doesn't need to be here. That piece of cobbled deep slate. All right. This is looking good so far. Maybe we could put one more block round about here, maybe? Oh, here we go. That's what was wrong. There it is. There's the fixed middle bits again. Give it a look from the side. And ta-da! There we go. There's our little horse claw. They're so cute. I love them. We could also try them with the lighter eyes, like I mentioned before, since the female versions, right? Yeah, they're both so cool. I love them. This is gonna be fantastic. So now we've just got to grab a bunch of these and paste them kind of just all over the island in various positions and poses, and maybe in nests and everything. So each one of them is going to be completely unique, or at least I'll try my best to. I mean, I feel like there's only so many variations of these things that I can make. I don't, however, like this wall. Maybe we can put that somewhere else, like over here, or maybe more in like the center. like this. How do we feel about that? Is that a good look? Oh, that looks more like a rooster now. Interesting. That's okay. I think we are good to go now. I've got a pretty solid foundation down for what I can do for the design. Now we just need to put them all over the place. And there we go. We've got a whole bunch of different horse claws kind of just put all over the island now. And oh my goodness. These little babies are quite possibly the greatest thing I've ever created in my entire life. So I was doing some reading of the Nausicaä manga, and I read somewhere that the baby horse claws are actually they're made of like these fluffy little white feathers compared to the big strong looking ones. So I made a little tiny baby horse claw with some cobwebs on it. And tell me this doesn't look like a fluffy little baby birdie, right? This is quite possibly the best thing I have ever made. I've put quite a few of them around already. I still have maybe 2 or 3 more that I would like to put around. But before we get started on all of those, I will very quickly just go around and show all of the ones that I did put down. So we've got these 2 here. We've got the main mother and a baby. Oh, and also I did have to do a bit of adjusting. So originally I did say that I was going to make a bunch of like little horse claw families, and it's really sad, but apparently the horse claws, the females only have their eggs once the other one dies. It's really sad. So there only is a horse claw with a baby when they've lost the father, or maybe they all lay eggs. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't really I couldn't find anything about that. But we've got a bunch of them all over the place in their nests and their little families around. So we've got one here, we've got one on the beach with the baby, and then we've got 2 more over on this little piece of land over here, which is underneath my overhang on the on the side of the mountain. So this one right here, this is a mother, right? You can tell by the lighter eyes with their slightly grown up child. This one is much smaller than the ones I've made before, which is it's very hard to tell because trying to build these things in scale is completely impossible. I could not. I do hope you all like these so far. And this one was definitely much more fun to create than the other ones because I had to make a dynamic like shape for the legs to make it look like they're walking, and I thought that was very cool. The mother as well has a very, very different shaped beak just to give a bit of diversity to the existing horse claws. I didn't want all of them to be the same, so we've got 2 of them here, mother and their baby, and then we also are going to put one more around about this location here, as well as another one up on the front of where I do my fishing and stuff, and then a whole bunch of them inside the cave, which is what we're going to get started on right now. Thank you very much. We have an extreme amount of work to do, and I've got an entire week of building I can do. Like from this point, I have a total of 7 days to be able to put my head down and do as much creative planning and survival building as I possibly can. And unfortunately, while I do have a whole 7 days to get this project started and finished, I unfortunately do not have the 7 days to record it all. There is a lot going on over here, and unfortunately I am not going to be able to record for quite a while. So I will just be tinkering away with this stuff in the background. Alright, so there are 2 things that I'm going to try to accomplish through this week. The first one is going to be the resource collecting and the block placing for the entire cavern that we have planned for holding all of our different echoes and stuff. And then once we are done with all of that, I am hoping to try and get some texturing done on the mountain, because I do really want an echo. So once we finish all that texturing and stuff, the only thing that we have left for this whole series would be to do the landscaping for like the shoreline and stuff, which is the connecting it all to the ocean floor. It's a big shocker that would, of course, is the last thing left. I very much underestimated how long that stuff would take. But we have a lot of different things to do, and we are going to work our way over to where we're going to have the big old chasm, and we're just gonna do a little tiny twirl. And there we go. This has been quite possibly the craziest week of my entire YouTube career. The amount of pain I'm feeling in my pinky and my thumb is absurd. And I definitely have overdone it, unfortunately. So I definitely think in my next video, I'm not gonna do any building. I'm just gonna do some relaxing fishing, and I'm just gonna I'm just gonna be doing fishing and that's it. You know, I don't think I have ever had a full 7 days of uninterrupted fishing before. I've always had to like do creative planning and resource collecting and actual building in the week. So I wonder if I'll be able to do a bit more fishing, because I know the most fishing I ever did before was 5 days in a row, and that was like 8,500, 9,000 almost. So I definitely I'm excited to see how much I could do if I am fully 100% dedicated to it for a full 7 days. But that is going to be next week for sure. So next Saturday, actually. So there actually was a data pack that came out a few days ago by Hauziki and AvidMC that adds a whole bunch of different biome-based fish, and I think that is what I'm going to do for the next week video. So we're just going to do some relaxing, some exploring, and we are going to be pouring our heart and soul into catching as many of those different fish that we can. Although, I don't think I'll be able to catch them all. I'll be able to catch probably a couple of them, but not nearly all of them. Well, that is enough of the fishing talk, so I am going to very quickly do a very small little tour of our lovely little cavern here. Starting, of course, with the fishing stuff, because fishing talk is never done here. So one of the big things that I really wanted for this cavern was I wanted to go fishing in it, right? But since it's a cave, that usually is not it's not a great idea. So I made a little spot where you can do your fishing and stuff at, and it's right here in the very center of all of the 4 trees that have the slots for the echoes and everything. So we've got one slot here, here, and you can't see it here, I think. Right about there, all facing inwards, and we've got these very small openings in the top of the mountain here, just so we can get some good sunlight, and we can also do our fishing without having to worry about getting the slow fishing and everything. Because if you didn't know, if you fish with your bobber not exposed to the sky, you get a very significant increase in the time it takes to catch something. So it's very important that you have your bobber exposed to the sky, and that also counts through translucent blocks as well. So you can put a piece of glass above it and it'll work fine. The fishing spots here are very limited, so I did use a glass pane as my my guiding block. So if I throw my bobber directly at the piece of glass right here, it'll just fall down and it'll be directly on the spot where it's exposed. So this right here is just as good as fishing in the ocean. I just thought I'd share that very quickly. I know I'm supposed to be doing a tour, but instead I'm going fishing. I'm sorry. I guess there is no better place to start than the beginning. Oh, also, I lost my netherite pickaxe somewhere. I completely misplaced it. It's been gone for a while. So I had to make a new Silk Touch pickaxe, which we did also name the same name as the netherite one as before. Anyway, here is the entrance of our big old cavern. So we went very flora for this location, and fauna, I suppose. We do have a bunch of the big horse claws in here. We've got one on a big nest with a cute little Togepi egg next to it, which is supposed to be a horse claw egg, but I don't actually know what they looked like. And then we've got the father over here, which doesn't make any sense, but I don't care. I want the little horseclaw families. We've got a bunch of different mushrooms and spore types all around, starting of course with these green ones. These were very cool to make. And then of course we have my favorite ones of all time. They're these little fluffy little spores that I call sporbs, because they're spore and they're little circles, right? So sporbs. We got a bunch of sporbs here. Oh, and this little green corner, or this little blue corner beside me. I know there's lots of blue plants in this game, so I wanted a dedicated spot for like blue stuff. Oh, and we've got a million firefly bushes underneath the floors as well for the particles and everything for the spores. That was also very cool. And then over there is the mother sporb, which is quite difficult to see because I'm not very good at sight lines, and everything in here is very cluttered, which was very intentional because cluttered for me is cozy. And that was the whole deal over here, was a cozy little fishing spot underground. Oh, actually, you know, this whole area was going to be actually a dormant volcano. Like, this whole top was going to be ripped off, and I was going to have it to where the trees in here floated in from above, but I felt like I really liked the jaggedness of the tops of the mountain more. Oh, that's right. I don't know if I mentioned it either, but I did in my creative world, I ended up swapping from the cherry grove trees to mangrove, because the green of the mangrove leaves definitely, I think, matches more of the toxic jungle type situation that I was trying to go for originally. I mean, because the pink from the cherry grove was very, very much, it was a lot, and it kind of, this whole area is already a lot, so it was definitely the best choice to turn everything here into green. And I do hope you all like it so far. I don't think there's anything left really for me to do in here. This is it. This was all of the things done as quickly as I possibly could have, and it was a great time. Oh, and we've got all of our echoes, our echo spots here as well. Nice. All right, well, that is certainly a good sign. We just got a mending book while we're just fishing here. I'll take it. I also don't think I mentioned it yet, but on top of this lovely little cavern, I did also do a little bit of texturing on the outside of my lovely little mountain here, and I absolutely love it. So I know this series is named Echoes of the Shore, but I have always thought of this mountain of having like little swirly bits on it. So I did go through with some diorite and some moss and some grass, and I added as much detail as I possibly could to the surface of the mountain. So I've got big old swirly bits kind of just all over the place around here, trying to add a bit more of like a whimsy, swirly, like fantasy location. And I don't know if it worked or not, but I do really love it. Look, we've got a bunch of them here. We've got one big one here. We did also add another birdie right there, as well as the one from before that I mentioned over here on the shoreline. And we just did this spiral situation pretty much around this entire mountain. So all of the moss and the diorite and stuff around here is all in a like spiral pattern. I just thought that would be a very fun and unique type of texturing to add to this little mountain here, given that it is, after all, supposed to be like songs, and a lot of these are shaped a bit like the song notes. So I do really hope that you all like this so far, and it has certainly been an experience doing all of this texturing and replacing of the grass. Oh my goodness, the mountain! Wait, I just realized. We finished the mountain. The mountain is done. Everything is done. All we have left is for the shoreline, and then that's it. That's the last echo that we need. We just need this one to be finished, and then that's it. I think we are good to go and get our echo now for the mountain.